just the agenda you can read. I'm not going to insult your intelligence, go through everything. The biggest thing is just to know who to call and when to call, or email. Over the past 6 years, I've realized that a lot of times messages get sent through people, and it gets towards the athletic director himself, or the principal, or even the superintendent, when it could very easily be resolved when it goes directly to a coach or assistant coach, or whatever it might be. So my biggest thing on this whole thing is just making sure that I know chain of command is the next, this thing will speed up and then it won't. But the biggest thing that I realized is that people want to have their voices heard. I have no problem with that. Just make sure that you get your voice heard to the correct individual, because it expedites the process, and it seems to get fixed a lot faster when you go to the person directly instead of going above him or her. So, the majority of you know me. I've been teaching 6th grade Phi Ed now for 13 years, which has absolutely flown by. I'm there every morning until 11:30. Then I make a short trip over here, and then at noon or so, I'm checking emails, checking phone calls. So, just so that you know where I'm at, when I'm here. So if you want to talk to me directly, noon to 3:30. Noon to 3 is the best time to get a hold of me. If you're going to call me via phone, I know you work. I know some of you might even be sleeping because it's second shift, third shift. But direct contact here in the afternoon. I always tell them, don't call me in the middle school, because I show up, I start teaching, I get done teaching, I get my car and I drive over here. So phone calls directed right over here, and then as well as high school wrestling coaches. Phone number right there, my direct extension 1104. Saves the office a little bit of time of searching and redirecting my calls. And then the email, I have absolutely no problem with emails. But I think a lot of you realize that sometimes you say something in text and it's taken out of context. So if it is a dilemma, if there's an issue, I would prefer either a face-to-face meeting or a phone call, because then I can hear your tone of your voice, you can hear mine, and then we can go and hopefully get things resolved quicker than in a text or even an email where there is no emotion there, it's just a bunch of letters on a page. As you can tell, my communication, or my focus is the communication with the main parties when it comes to high school athletics: parents, teachers, coaches, the student athletes, and then any interested community members. I don't mind hearing from parents, teachers, coaches, or athletes on positives or negatives. I welcome any kind of comments. Okay? If there's a background behind that comment, I will gladly take it. I note it, I document it, and at the end of the season, whether it's with the coaches or maybe even with the athletes, I do have conversations with them on time to time, and I have absolutely no problem discussing any possible concerns or issues that might be arising. So, and then what I communicate through, the majority of it is face-to-face interactions, phone calls, and emails. I think the majority of you already realize that and know that. I prefer the face-to-face, one-on-one, you and me across my table, and it just seems to go faster. It seems to, you get your point across, you know where I stand or where the school stands. I think it's the best of any kind of interaction. Our school, southcentralwisconsin.org, I will get to that. That is our big ticket item at the end of the presentation. The school website will be up to date, and it is up to date right now. But on the school website itself, you will not find any schedules. We'll get to that in a moment. And then through the radio station. This is going to be a little different, so it's going to be different this year come winter and spring. If there's bad weather, whether it be winter or spring, the first phone call I make is to that other athletic director saying, okay, we're canceling, when are we going to reschedule, and we get that date. Once that date is established, the first person I can talk or call is the radio station, so it's on the airwaves. As I'm making that phone call, I will be going to our school to make that change. And somebody's like, yeah, okay. Trust me, it will all make sense when I get to it. Chain of command, I think I talked to, when a problem or a question arises, make sure you collect all your information. And I say this and people laugh, but it is, make sure you get the whole story from your son, daughter. I know sometimes it just does not come home that way. All the best intentions in the world, but just make sure you hear the whole story that they give to you. Then, from there, realize that you need to go directly to that coach. Okay? The coach that is involved with this issue. Don't go directly to the head coach unless it truly is on the varsity squad. If it happened at practice, if it happened at game, the person that's going to know about it is going to be that coach, that level of coach, whether it's freshman, JV, or varsity. Then from there, then go to the head coach if it doesn't resolve itself. And if you already went to the head coach, then it comes directly to me. And I have been actually intimidated by our new superintendent already, sitting in my office. He sat down and he goes, I will not take phone calls unless Tanya, Mrs. Kalowski, has contacted me. So if you call him and you leave him a message he's told me that is not going to be responded to, he's not going to bring that issue to light back towards me or the coach. The chain of command follows coach, head coach, myself. Then once we talk, if you're not satisfied, then of course you go to Mrs. Kalowski, as well as after Mrs. Kalowski, then you can take it to Mr. Rudwowski. He wants to make sure that everything has already been followed before it ever gets to him. He's got plenty of things on his plate. Trust me, he doesn't want to be hearing about athletics prior to this 7th bullet. Okay? So please, if there is an issue, let's get it taken care of. I have no problem with discussions, but just make sure you go and you follow that chain of command. That way you can get things started. Okay? And then, of course, if for whatever reason you're not satisfied after talking to Mr. Waski, then of course you can go to the Supreme Court if you wish. That is your right to do such. On to your student-athlete responsibilities. The majority of you, like I said, have already heard this, and I truly believe this, and I just realized you can't read that. All students have the privilege to participate in extracurricular activities if he or she is willing to assume certain responsibilities. Athletics are a privilege, not a right. The participants must abide by the co-curricular code eligibility requirements set forth by the high school here and the WIAA to maintain that privilege. For the majority of all the athletes in our school, we don't have that problem. Honestly, I'm glad I work where I do, because when it comes to co-curricular code violations, when it comes to drug or alcohol / academics, compared to what I hear from my other fellow AD counterparts, that's the majority of their job. I can tell you it's a small majority of my job. So I'd like to applaud the parenting as well as the athletes making positive and smart choices. So the athletic code itself, this is the meat and potatoes of all the policies of the community, of the high school, sorry. The last 2 pages are the most important for parent and student. I believe the last page is my checklist thing. Yep, it's a checklist. Okay? That is taking the first 16 pages and condensing it into 1 page that you can rip off, stick on the refrigerator, and as your son or daughter is walking out on a Friday afternoon to go to somewhere that you're not really sure where they're going, you can point to it. Because I believe that some of our athletes don't understand what the repercussions are for a bad decision. And they're all right there. Layman's terms, nice and simple. Okay. Now the other 16 pages, you can keep those. Those are how it's written out, your appeal process, and just in more depth. Okay? So don't just throw that away. Don't discard it. It's very important. But at the same point, the information that you're going to be most interested in is that chart. Then the second to last page is the parent-athlete signature, which must be signed off for before they begin practice, whether it's Monday for football, or 2 Mondays or 3 Mondays from now for cross country and or football, cheerleading as well, and then when we get the winter, dance, wrestling, basketball, So that signature, not that it's ever been a problem, but I need to make sure that you understand that when you sign that, not only are you signing that you've read and understand the policies and students plan to live by that code, you're also signing parents to give permission for your son or daughter to be seen by an athletic trainer / doctor if on staff during the event of an injury or even prevention of an injury. The majority of you know that we do have a trainer that comes in. In the past, it's been Tuesday during their lunch hour. I've been told that Marshfield Clinic is going to be sending a trainer at least twice a week this year, if not a third day. As well as we now have an in-town sports medicine doctor. And I'll introduce him real quick. Unfortunately, I don't see him in the crowd tonight to introduce him by face. But he states that he plans on being at every single home event. So, just so you know, that signature is that states, yes, my son, my daughter can be treated by said physician, said doctor, in case of an injury or even prevention of injury. If you have any questions with that, we can discuss it further. But for the most part, it's the best of both worlds. It's the free health care as well as hopefully some preventative stuff so that we don't have issues in the future. That code itself was revised last in July of 2012. Since then, there's just been a couple editorial changes, getting rid of some just last year's senior class denotions inside the code. Other than that, nothing else has changed. So the code, if you did read through it, it is the same as it was last year. This is the big one, especially for the freshmen. Co-curricular code changes, which, like I said, were from last year's school year. The big one, academic requirements, we went to a no F policy. Absolutely no Fs in your 4 classes at either term or semester. Okay? Let me explain this just a little bit more in depth. If you happen to pass first term, first quarter as most know it, and you fail the second quarter, at that point, if that F is higher than an F for the semester grade, you're okay, barely. Okay? It's term, semester, term, semester, when we look at the F policy. Okay? I understand some of you parents are sitting there, they should never have any F. I agree with that. But if you ever try to look at a displayed report card online, after a while it gets a little, I don't want to say confusing, but difficult because your eyes start to spin. At first quarter, so at the end of volleyball, football, cross country, I'm going to look at the first quarter grades. If you have an F, you're going to be academically ineligible for the first 3 weeks of your next sport in the winter. Okay? So that's basketball, cheerleading, dance, wrestling. Okay? At the end of January, when we get to semester, that's when I'm going to be looking at the semester grade. Because in block, semester grades are really the key. Okay? So, semester grades are more important than the term grades when we get to first and second semester term endings. Okay? And then there's a minimum GPA requirement. There's a 2.0 term GPA requirement for seniors and seniors only. Just because of the fact that when we started this last year, they had already been halfway through their high school careers, and asking them to raise a 1.85 GPA to a 2.0 within even 3 periods, as in a year and a half, is pretty difficult. So the seniors getting grandfathered in every term, I will be looking at their term GPAs. Okay? Term refers to every quarter. And then for everyone else, it's a 2.0 cumulative GPA, which gives you a little bit of leeway. For example, I go through my sophomore year and I have a 2.6. First term, first quarter, this year, I have a bad time and I have 2 C's and 2 D's. Now my term GPA would be way below 2.0, probably 1.6. But because of my previous 2 years of good work, that 1.6 will only bring my 2.6 down to about a 2.4, if I'm lucky. So it's all about getting in there and doing your academic work, okay? Getting off to a good start. So the freshman, you got a clean slate right now. You have a 0 GPA. You have to earn that first one, okay? So make sure it's set at a good level. Don't just skate by with straight C's, because a 2.0 is a C, not a C minus, a C. A C minus is a 1.85, if I remember correctly. Okay? So make sure that you are getting those C's and above. Okay? Preferably B's and A's. And then the code of conduct changes. The wording just changed. We changed it from headings of alcohol, tobacco, and other illegal drugs to major conduct violations. And then we changed the disrespectful, poor sportsmanship, that type of stuff. The lower violations, the more minor conduct violations, turned it into just the minor violation area. Eligibility, this is one that it changed, and I haven't taken it off because WIA says you should really talk about it every single year. We have the signatures, you're going to have those signatures by signing the back of that. It's the transfer issue, not that we have a lot of people transferring in or out during their 4 years, but it is there. Just know that if you transfer, as in you open and enroll somewhere other than your home district, after your sophomore year, you're going to lose a year of eligibility. By transfer, that means if I'm living up in Rapids and I decide I'm coming down to Adams at the beginning of my junior year, if I don't physically move with my mother and father, or mother or father, to this district, I will lose a year of athletic eligibility. Okay? I know I don't think a lot of people worry about it, but I put it out there just because of the fact that I am recording it, and if someone sees it on the website and views it, they now have it. After you're established at a school for 2 years, you cannot just open and enroll and move to a different one for better volleyball, better football, better basketball, better wrestling, whatever it might be. It needs to be a family move in order to maintain your eligibility once you do make that change. Physicals. Can I just get a raise of hands of how many of you took advantage of those 4 dates, 4, 5, 6 dates that they had at Mountain View? Just a couple. Okay. Was it easier to get in this year than it was in the years past?
Yes.
It was? Okay. Just because I know when we got started on that, Jeremy wanted to make sure that it was easy access by all to get in there to take advantage of those dates. So, physicals here, you're good for 2 years. The emergency enrollment forms, you're going to have those on file inside the high school office. That's something that's required by the school, so we won't cover that too much. Concussions. I know the big one was, it started last year. I'm just going to refresh again. When in doubt, we're going to send them out. The coaches have been in an in-service, they've read up on it. If they think there's a possibility that your son or daughter experienced a concussion, whether it's practice, game, or even maybe during school, they just were informed about it, the coaches are going to sit them out to be sure that we're not putting your son or daughter in any more danger. Okay? They're going to be extremely cautious, just because of the fact, with all the legislation, all the information that's coming out of how bad you can seriously hurt yourself with a repetitive concussion when younger. So, if there's a question with that, like I said, feel free to contact me. I've been to a couple of services, 2 last year, 1 this year already, to be up to date on the newest findings. So, the big one is the third bullet. If they are removed from practice or an event due to concussion symptoms, which we'll cover in the upcoming, a medical doctor is the only person that can clear that athlete to return to play. Now, with the importance of Dr. I always want to say his last name's Coronis, but I don't think that's how it's pronounced. Cornhouse. Cornhouse. With Dr. Cornhouse, he will be around. If let's just say football player comes off and is just looking woozy, and the coach catches it, you need to go see Doc. On the sideline, the doc can say, yes, you can go back, you're clear. The doc can figure out, nope, you're not, you're sitting out. Okay? Because he pulls him out, it is my understanding that, one, doesn't mean he has a concussion, but two, it means he is not going back in for the rest of the game. Okay? My understanding is that the pull might just be, let's just monitor for a little bit. But we're going to monitor it for concussion symptoms. And once he does that, it's my understanding that your son or daughter, depending on what sport, will not be allowed to go back in that day. Okay? He will be the one, especially if he's on the sideline and views it, sees what exactly happens, and does the immediate sideline test. He will be the one that I'm going to very strongly urge you to take your son or daughter to see to get clearance back into school. I'm not going to promote Marshfield. I'm not going to promote McDonough, which is now Marshfield. Marshfield bought him out last year. I'm not going to urge you to take him to your family doctor because of this reason. He has a sports medicine background. He has more training than your typical family physician in concussions, concussion symptoms. So I would suggest save the drive, wherever it might be, go to Doc Cornhouse in-house, in town. That way, when he sees them, he can email me saying, so-and-so is cleared, barring the impact test, which we'll get to in a second. Some of you athletes have already gone through it. And then that gets that ball rolling a lot faster than it would be if you go see your family doc in Boston, and then you bring the sheet back, okay, barring. Okay, well now I got to contact that person. Yeah, they took the impact. I got to send them the results. They have to be able to read the results, which a lot of family doctors can't. So, just for the sake of expediency, I would suggest, like I said, I'll put up his name in a second here when I get to it. Signs and symptoms of a concussion. I am not going to read this whole thing because you have it in your packet or your single sheet, whether it be for the athlete or for the parents. But the big one is headaches. Just because your son or daughter has a headache does not mean he, or even you for that matter, have a concussion. If that headache is from the impact of some sort of helmet-to-helmet hit, or you hitting the floor, or falling out of bed, or whatever it might be, there's a possibility that it is a concussion and you have a bruise on the brain. Okay, that's really what a concussion is. It's a bruise, possibly bleeding, on your brain. If that concussion continues, okay, and there were about 6 cases of this past year, so I want to make sure that the educated, informed parents here, and all that watch this video, know this. If your son or daughter leaves competition practice due to the fact that there's a suspected concussion, before they return back to school, I highly suggest that you monitor and make sure they do not have a headache. And here's why. Any kind of stimulation, fluorescent lights, vending machine noise, my voice coming through the speakers, you sitting right next to someone who's scribbling something on that piece of paper, the concentration of trying to listen and read exactly what's on that board, the noise of walking through these hallways during passing time. All of those things, all of those atmospheric noises agitate and continue to make the bruise on the brain, the concussion, even worse, even longer. It will sit there and not necessarily be dormant, not necessarily be growing, but it's just going to keep that bruise and that headache just, I'm not right, I don't feel good. Now, I understand, at times, I got a test. Well, I tell you what, if you're going to be studying for that test and then try to take the test, you're going to do poorly. Okay? The issue is the education of, and I'm still trying to push it through so that every teacher in the district knows that if son or daughter has a headache from a concussion, when they come back to school, it literally should be, okay, first class, no headache. First class bell rings. No headache? Okay, I'm going to go to second class. Second block, no headache? No, I got a headache. Okay, I should go home. Because of the fact, the longer you sit around with that headache, the worse the length of it is going to be. So, if there's any questions on that, I will gladly, I'll sit down with you, whether it's your son or daughter has a concussion or you just want to know more about it, because the more and more they research it, the more and more they find out that just sitting down right there trying to listen to a teacher speak on the French Revolution, even if they're interested in the French Revolution, which I wasn't, just the concentration of trying to listen and understand what the person is saying is going to agitate that headache, and it's just going to make it worse longer and longer. So that's what I can give you on concussions themselves. Like I said, I'm not going to go through this whole piece of paper here. Impact testing. I realized that last year at this time when I went through this whole thing, I never once talked about the impact testing. What it is, oh, we're going past it? Okay, my computer's slowing down then. What it is all freshmen and juniors will take a baseline test of the impact test before being eligible to participate in practice. Reason being, last year every single athlete took it. Well, it's only good for 2 years. So if you happen to be a sophomore last year, sorry, you have to take it again this year so that you can get through your senior year with it being having a valid baseline test. Okay? That will happen the first day of practice before you practice. Okay? And just to go a little bit more in depth to this, it's a computerized test. It takes no more than 45 minutes. Some kids get it done faster than half an hour. It's their baseline to be measured against their results after experiencing a head trauma of a concussion. Okay? So for example, I take the baseline test. In fact, I took it last winter. To make it very simple, there's 6 different categories that they're looking at. Speed and reaction, memory, recognition. And what it is it just measures how well you do on that. For example, put it all together, let's just say, because you don't, it's many different categories, but let's say I scored an 86 out of 100. That 86 now becomes my 100%. So now when I experience a concussion, before I ever get back into practice, I have to take this test, and I have to take that test and have a satisfactory score. Like I said, it's not this simple, but that range would be, okay, my baseline's an 86. Well, I really should be there no lower than 84, or 85, or 83, or 84. You know, there is a fluctuation of what's a okay score. But what it is, it's just a second measure to make sure that the athletes are being safe going back into participation. Okay? The first one, and by law, all it has to be is the doctor. The doctor says, yep, go right ahead, you're clear. But once again, the doctor can't actually see what's in the brain. Well, the best that we can do without killing anybody to see that brain is to see how well they do on this test. So it's a secondary measure, it's our second step that they must pass, if you want to put it that way, before they're allowed to participate. To me, I mean, going through and watching it, and watching kids go through it, yes, they get frustrated because they think they're doing so bad, and I always keep remember this is your test. Don't worry about how fast, how slow it's taking you. Just remember that you're trying to do the best you can so that you know where your baseline is. And I did have 2 athletes last year saying, I'm going to get them, and they tried to get everything wrong. They got about 25, 30 minutes into it. Test said, please see test administrator, you'll need to start over. So, it does have that fail-safe so that you can't purposely get a low number so that when you do receive a concussion, you can get none of those scores still go forward. So, the post-test will be administered by either a trainer, the doctor, or myself. Majority of the baseline can be done by me just because I'll be here for the first day of practice. And I literally get them started, tell them the answer, here's your name, here's your grade, here's the sport you're going out for. And then once they get started, it's on their own on the computer. And then the post-test results will be measured against the baseline to determine whether the athlete will be allowed to re-enter their sport practice. Now, I don't do that. Okay? Preferably, if you're working through Doc in town, as soon as that test results get done, he will be able to view them. You can then shoot me an email and say, hey, scores look good, return to practice, which is a little bit more in depth as well once they get going in here. Once they get cleared by the doc, then they get cleared by the impact test, and then we get into the progression levels of getting back into practice. Every progression will take 24 hours with the athlete being symptom-free before moving to the next level. If any symptoms occur during the progression, the athlete should drop back to the previous progression and then try to complete that level after a 24-hour rest period. Okay? It's a lot to swallow. We'll go through this and I'll explain. No activity with a complete physical and cognitive rest. Then light aerobic activity, less than 70% of your maximum heart rate. Sport-specific exercise drills. Then on to non-contact drills, more intense. And then full contact. Just because they get through full contact practice, let's just say Thursday night, yeah, going home, I'm feeling good. Doesn't not mean that they're good to go for Friday's game. And then of course return to play normal gameplay. The biggest thing is that once they get started on this, if this is Monday they come back, there's no activity, Sunday. On Sunday, there's no activity with complete physical and cognitive rest. Monday morning, they go to the doctor. They're clear. They take the impact test Monday afternoon at some point. Doc reads it, good there, okay. Going to practice, light aerobic exercise, less than 70% of your maximum heart rate. Literally, that's going to be walking up and down the basketball court, walking around the softball field, walking around the football field, walking, talking, just being involved, moving. That's about it. After practice, things are good, goes home, things are good, eats supper, things are good, goes to bed, wakes up, no headache, get through school, no headache. All right, get to practice. Now we go to sport-specific drills. Okay? Actually, drills for that. Maybe it's using the takedown dummy in the wrestling. Maybe it's shooting free throws for basketball. Maybe it's just stretching out and getting into the dance line, just moving around. Baseball, might be swinging the baseball bat. Okay? Sport-specific, but no contact. Okay? And then we go to the next day, which would be Wednesday, non-contact training drills, more intense, okay, but still no contact with other players. Okay, that would be full-fledged batting practice. That could be, man, in wrestling, I don't even know what that would be, to be honest. But it would be more cardio. Basketball, up and down, okay, maybe up and down a couple times, take a little break, up and down a couple times, high intensity. Once again, practice gets done, no headache. Go to full contact. So it's Thursday, you got full contact practice. Okay? You got full contact. Once that practice ends, all of a sudden now there's a headache. Ooh, that's a red flag. You gotta make sure you don't hide this, athletes. He's a headache. Okay, fine. You don't go back to here. It's just that when you come back to practice on Friday or to the game, we're back to here. Okay? So if it happens to be a game day and you're at full contact, well, that's simply, you're in the warm-up line, you're ready to go. You get ready to participate as you would in a regular game. It's just that you will not be playing, but you'll be in the shooting line, you can be in on the mat for wrestling, you can be in on the field practice and warming up for football. Okay? Just once we get through that, because then if it comes Saturday, you're good. Now you know, yes, you might miss a game, or even two for that matter, but at least it gets you back to normal come the weekend and come the following week. So that is probably the hardest thing for athletes to understand, just because of the fact that, well, I was fine yesterday. Well, you're right, but there's plenty of other factors that contribute to symptoms of concussion. Like I said, the noise here at school. Might be in the car ride on the way to school with Big Brother, Big Sister. So, any questions on the progression of the concussion level? The one thing I just noticed, and I was wondering if someone's going to call me out on it, it says following medical clearance. Okay? This was policy last year that you did not need medical clearance from the doc until we got to here. This is actually outdated, and I really should have got rid of this. This parentheses through here is no longer, because this, following medical clearance, is up here. Okay? If your son or daughter is in the middle of this and just for whatever reason can't get through it after like a week, I'm going to advise, I can't make you, but I would advise to get your son or daughter back to see doc and see, maybe he can give you some more information on what's going on, maybe some tips, I don't know. But this is the trickiest thing that as an AD, as coaches, as parents, and as athletes we have to deal with. And it's not going to go away anytime soon. So, any other questions? Any questions? Okay. There we go. Dr. Paul Kornhaus, sports medicine doctor at Mountain View Memorial Hospital and Clinics. I was hoping he was going to be here today so he could stand up and introduce himself. He is very, very, very outgoing and very much a supporter of athletics. If you have a question and you see him, I'm almost positive he will answer it. So don't be shy. I mean, this is going to be my question. He came from Portage, and I cannot even count how many people said the email, well, you're lucky that he's up there, or our assistant principal is from Portage, our principal worked at Portage. They both have raving reviews from this gentleman. So if there's any questions, kids or parents, this would be the man in town to get a hold of. Okay? I'm not saying don't talk to the trainer, I'm not saying that. But if there's issues throughout the week, or maybe even want to see him, almost have like an annual checkup with him, however, but he's the guy that I hope helps us out big time. As athletic director, I hear a lot of things from other ADs and other schools on issues with parents and kids not coming out, which has been an issue here. I just like to point this out. Parents just see that why kids play. The majority of kids play because it's fun. They want to improve their skills. They enjoy it. They want to be around friends. They're competitive, be part of the team. Number 9 is to win. That's not the number one reason. They want to be involved. Winning is great. I'm sure any kid will say that. Winning is great. Okay? But a lot of them, it's just about participation and having some fun. Okay? And I've expressed this to the coaches as well. Not all kids are worried about getting that scholarship or to win that individual or team title, whatever it might be. So I just put it up there just so that people see it, people understand it. The next one, and this one doesn't necessarily talk to everyone that's sitting here. Athletic passes, there's a change, and I'm sure a lot of the kids have already told you, and it's school board policy now. Family pass is still 55, up to 5 passes on that family pass. I still would strongly urge you to do that. It is the best deal. Adult pass is still 30, that did not change. A student pass is still 20, but high school students are free with ID. So if you just have the one kid left in the house, or they have one child in high school, as long as they have their high school ID, they never have to pay to get in until you get to the tournaments. And with the tournaments, they still don't get in free anyways. So just know that the passes themselves, there's no need for them for high school students. Middle school, yes. Elementary, yes. Mom, dad, brother, sister, out of school, yes. Grandma, grandpa, great. But the high school students get in free. The athletic fees, which I always say every single year, if you could pay them tonight, that would be great, because I can mark them off. It's an athletic fee is annual now. It's no longer per sport, which has been that way for 5 years. It's $30 per athlete per year, and that will cover 1, 2, or 3 sports that they get involved in. So I suggest pay the $30 right now, have them go up to 3 sports, and it'll cost them $10 a sport. So that's only how many loads of laundry or time shoveling, driveway, whatever it might be. Like I said, Feel free to pay tonight if you want, checks to AFHS. If by chance you can pay me in cash, please, please, please make sure that I have the cash in one hand and I have my binder in the other, and I'm marking me down. If I don't have a cash register, I don't have a receipt to hand you. I'll put it in my binder and lock it up tonight, but make sure I mark it down as soon as I have it. Sports schedules. Individual sports schedules will be in my office at any time. Athletes, you see the indent, you don't even want to talk to me because you don't like it, that's fine. Andy, open the door, go to the Rolodex, pull your schedule, walk out. You don't even have to say hi. I'd like to hi, but you don't have to say hi. Okay, they're there all the time. The next one, the athletic department, we are AF poster, here in the back. Even if your son or daughter is not represented, hey, one day, possibility. Okay, you can grab those. I said one per household. I mean, if you have grandma and grandpa that want one, go right ahead, take one. I'm not that way. Get those schedules out there. Those schedules are, I would say current, but they're already going to change, so I can't tell you that they're absolutely current. And then this website that we're going to talk about in a second here, the southcentralwisconsin.org. When I talk about that website, I will always say the word our school, because that is it's the rights of our school. And what it is an online scheduling system, scheduling base for all ADs in the state of Wisconsin and actually throughout the U.S. Okay? Those of you that have a cell phone and you love getting text messages or even emails on them, pull them out and get them ready. Okay? We'll walk you through it. Hopefully this works like it's supposed to. It looks like it is. What happens when you click on that? Let me go back one step. If by chance you go to the high school athletic page like you have in the past with the schedule, it says click here for high school athletic schedules. It will take you to this site. From here, you can view any schedule you want. So if you've got a boyfriend or girlfriend in another school, you want to find out where to go ahead and click on it. Okay? If you want to go scouting because you're an individual, you want to see a good runner or good wrestler or track or whatever it might be, you can click on any schedule you want. I'm just showing you the South Central's page. You click on Adams-Freindship High School. Right here is where you're going to get everything you want. Parents, grandparents, everything. Right here is all the schedules, and there's many more, and I'll explain them in a little bit. But they're all right there outside of golf, because golf doesn't get done until this fall. But they're all right there. You click on that schedule, you click on view, and that schedule will pop up, and you will be absolutely positive that that is the current schedule, because that's the first thing I change when anything happens. Okay? Now you're like, that's great. You've been up to date in the school website and radio, yep. And here's where the cool part comes in. You see in the upper part of the screen next to notify me, and I'll go through it. Click on it. It's just going to ask, which schedules do you want to know about? You got all of them right there. And I got to go a little time out here because this is where it gets a little confusing, because some of you are like, wait a second, there's way too many schedules on there. You're right. The 6 individuals, the 6 ADs of the conference, unfortunately did not listen to all the directions in which the South Central Conference Commissioners stated. It should be sport, gender, and level. That's it. So when you look at this, if you're interested in baseball, you would click on baseball boys JV, baseball boys varsity. Okay? These, someone screwed it up. They will disappear, trust me. Basketball, boys freshman, boys JV, boys varsity. Girls, freshman, JV, varsity. Cross country, varsity, JV. Transgender, sorry. Both genders, non-discriminatory. Okay? Not transgender, sorry. I'm glad I got it right for you guys. Oh, dead crowd. Football, right here. Okay? Like if you read this, football, boys, varsity, that doesn't make any sense. Okay? If it doesn't make sense, don't click on it. Okay? And now you can go through all of them, but just click on the ones that specifically speak to sport, gender, level. Okay? If you were interested in, I'm just going to pick 2 just for the sake of time. I'm going to just pick baseball and baseball here. Click on continue. Right here, this page will say, Set reminders before each activity. You can set reminders for every single baseball game, because there's varsity JV on there. Let's just say 3 days prior to the activity. Click on the little blue button, you go to 3 days, there you go. Click on here, go to 3 days, now you're ready. As soon as you hit continue, it's going to take you to what's your cell phone number, what's your email address. And what it will do is it will email you as soon as something happens to that schedule. It will text you, it will email you, and or if something changes in October, all of a sudden Boston's got to play on Thursday night instead of Friday night. As soon as I make that change, guess what? You're going to receive a text message, you're going to receive an email. And you will always have the most current schedule possible. The one addition. Don't be like Mrs. Kalowski and put every single check mark in there, because you're going to receive text messages up the wazoo. If I were you, I would just sign up for basketball per se. I'd just say girls basketball varsity. Just click that one. Don't click the other ones because they're normally all the same anyways. Okay, but you can click as many that you're interested in as you want, and that way it will always be directly up to date and sent directly to you. It will really be handy if we have a snow date or a rain out. So, can't make that one any more simple. You can also click on subscribe. If you're a person that uses iCalendar, Outlook Calendar, iCal on Macs, Google Calendar, or RS Reader, or Yahoo Reader, you can subscribe, and that will import those schedules directly to your calendar. And those calendars will change if there's ever a change to the schedules. You won't even know about it, unless you sign up for the reminder. So, this site will be highly, highly handy for you if we have a spring, like we did last spring, or if we had a winter, like we had 2 winters ago. So, there's a lot that I haven't done on it yet. It was just new to us last year, but all the information is there. Another feature here, let's just say you are interested in all of basketball. I'm going to make this fast here. Basketball, whoops, wrong button. Click on, sure now it's thinking. You can click on multiple schedules, okay? Using your, I think it's Apple for Mac and Control, okay? I can also go and I can do cross country right away. I can do wrestling right away. And what it will do is it will print you out one long calendar schedule in order by date. So for here, for instance, let's just go and I'll put cross country under it'll be. And the thing that's going to pop up is of course going to be cross country first. At least, anyways, it should. Unless, okay, cross country is all first there because of course in calendar order, all cross country. And then as you go down, when cross country gets done, it will jump right into basketball. So it will all be there. And at any point, even if 2 seconds ago I just made a change in my office, you're going to have that change as soon as it pops up. Okay. So I think this is going to be the interesting feature of the year for everyone to use. Are there any questions on our school or any of that? Whoops. There we go. I know I went through it kind of fast. Most of your kids can probably teach you how to do it because I'm sure they understood everything I said. No? Okay. Contact from coaches. It's in that little packet of yours. As far as I know, they're all current and they're all up to date, so I'm hoping nothing has changed over the summer. You can use that to contact them, whether it's email or phone call. Any questions? I haven't received one yet. It's been the first time ever. I don't have any questions. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Where did you say to purchase the family passes for?
The family passes, you can purchase them anytime during an event. Teresa Comer's our ticket. Yep, right at the gate. She'll have an extra table out there for the first home football game, which I think is the first, yeah, football is the first one this year. So you can get them at that point. Any other questions? Oh man, you're letting me off easy. I gotta say, thanks for coming. So, yeah, if there's any questions you want to